Hello, my name is Kevin Diaz. This is on Tuesday, September 14th, 2011, and I'm currently on a Zoom call with Professor Pamela Gaiter on Collin College. Professor, if you'd like, you can introduce yourself and name and title, even though I already gave it.
That's okay. Okay, that's right. That's correct. My name is Professor Pamela Gaiter. I'm professor of sociology at Collin College, and I'm currently on the Wiley campus. I've been at Collin almost 30 years now, teaching various sociology classes from intro, social problems, marriage and family, to race and ethnicity.
Great. First and foremost, thank you for taking the time to be in this call. Today, I'm currently writing a story about the recent lifting of the eviction moratorium by the Supreme Court. And I wanted to just ask about the societal implications of it, of evictions as a whole. So my first question is, what kind of impact do evictions or people losing their homes have on general society?
Well, having a stable home is important, not just for having food and shelter, but it's also important for one's livelihood. So you want to think about it. If you don't have a house, if you don't have a resident, it's very difficult to get a job because they want an address. It's very difficult for the kids to remain in a constant school because they want location. Although there are some emergency shelters that will pick up children depending upon where they're located, but then there's a difficulty of it as well. And those spots are treasured and not so readily available. I think there's another impact of this that we have to consider too, like in the state of Texas. In many places, I know in particular, like Collin County, it is now against the law for you to just, well, I forget what they call it, but to just loiter around, like to congregate around. And that particular law impacts the homeless population because if you don't have a job, you don't have a home, usually you're congregating in a place where you're waiting either for provisions. Like downtown Dallas, they have the bridge. But the bridge is kind of like a transit center on the way in and out. I want you to think in terms of families who are in Collin County and they lose their home. What happens a lot is that if they have friends or relatives where they can stay for a while, we call those couch surfing. There's an increase of that. That typically happens a lot with teenagers who have problems in their family's home and they're not able to, they're not able to get in any kind of system. So they, sleep on the couch of various families. And actually, it's interesting, Kevin, you're bringing this up now because when you think about COVID and the loss of jobs or downgrading of jobs, one of the most expense of a family is housing. And if you look around anywhere in the state of Texas, even out there where you say you live in Princeton, you can see housing developments going up. They're building housing, but it's not affordable housing. And so not having affordable housing impacts like productivity. For example, one of the agencies that I work with was saying out at the in Frisco, where they have the Toyota Center and they have like FedEx and they have jobs out there. Most of the people who are employed in the lower income jobs provide service, but they cannot afford to live in that particular area. So they have to rely on public transportation. It takes them about 2 hours, depending upon the number of buses that they have to take to get to from one side of North Texas over to the north side of Frisco or wherever they have to go. And even if they try to afford a house in that area, they cannot because those houses that are being built for those people who are employed for companies with six figures or something like that. So, but when you look at the service industry, who's servicing those people? They don't live in that area. So there you've got employment, you've got education, you've got we haven't even touched on the increased cost of food because of COVID. So I can't afford a house. I'm not able to afford food. And let's say I have children and my children have to go to school, and they're going to school hungry, or they're going to school on a processed diet, where most of their food is processed or packaged food. Because let's be honest, the cheapest food is processed food. So you have a kid who may had a breakfast, potato chips, soda pop, and maybe some cookies, and they're going to school and their sugar rate goes up like this, and then they go down. Or you have a kid that is in transit from one home to another, and you can have several families in the same household living together. And if they're doing face to face or virtual, there's a lot of distractions going on in the housing. So that eviction um, is opening up or adding to already social problems that have been exacerbated as a result of COVID, as a result of inflation, not keeping up with the cost of living. Um, and as a result of a lot of people migrating, when I say people migrating, like from California, New York, and so forth, migrating down here because of jobs or because they can sell their house in California and buy a whole property and their house, pay cash here. And so you're pushing out people in that neighborhood who may have been in on that property for a long period of time. They cannot afford to live in that neighborhood. They don't have the same stores. They have Whole Foods over there, and I'm not saying anything against Whole Foods. I'm just saying that not everybody can afford to go to Whole Foods and buy the organic food and things like that. So the food selection. So you're seeing an increase of food pantries in the area. Um, and it's interesting, I provide an opportunity for my students to do what we call service learning as a way of learning some of the things that I talk about in class. And one of the one of the entities that we work with are food pantries, and they're saying that the increased population of those who are needing food are not just individuals on the streets, but now there are families. They are working families who either living in a house that they cannot afford, or they're living somewhere else, and all of their and actually the initial formula for housing is supposed to be 34%, really 35% of your income. Most families today pay somewhere between 40 to 60% of their income on housing. So I want you to think about that. So when you're paying that much on housing, what's left for medical expense? What's left for transportation? What's left for food? What's left for utilities? All of that is being impacted by a smaller amount of income, but a higher cost of living. And so you take that away. Where are these people going to go? They're going to go to shelters if the shelters are available, if they have spacing available. They're going to go to, if they're fortunate enough to have family or friends. And you know that most people live where they work. They don't live necessarily close to families. And now you have several generations that would typically retire, but everybody's working because they can't afford, health care. So you have aging people who are working. Or they will try to apply for the some of the grants where they can have, or they would try to apply for some of the housing where they have grants to put up people for temporary housing. But that means you got to know about it. How am I going to know about it if I'm not in the service industry, and unless someone tells me this? All I know is that I got an eviction notice and I don't know where I'm going to go. And I can't stand around. I can't keep my things with me because I'll be arrested, and I'll get arrested, and what's going to happen to my kids? So you see this cycle of
Bit of
effect.
a domino effect almost.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You open up a whole Pandora's box. Now, on the other hand of that, because we're always talking about thinking both sides, you have landlords who are needing their income in order to pay for their family's needs as well. And unless there's going to be some kind of subsidy, and I don't know what percentage of that cares, which has to go with the COVID funding that they gave. I don't know what percentage of that is going to landlords who was losing housing, who was losing money from their renters as a result of them not being able to pay because of the moratorium. And if they will continue with this kind of, what do they call it? Stimulus
Right.
funding. So you got both sides. I can't pay my rent, and the landlord can't pay their bills because I'm not paying my rent. You see. Um, so there's both sides of it. But the one that has the longest term is the one who don't have permanent shelter.
Right. Okay.
So if you want, I don't know if you were going to ask me this, so what do I think would be a solution is that as quick as we are building uh, these homes, these apartments, these condos, we also build affordable homes and condos where students, where parents can place their students in schools, where there's public transportation for the parents to go back and forth to work, whether they're working downtown Dallas, whether they're working in Frisco, wherever they work. And I think, what's the name of the facility? I can't think of it. It's out in McKinney, but it's a group that that were building tiny housing, tiny houses, and I can't remember the name of the group. That's kind of one solution, but and then for a while there were oh, what do they call it? It's where a developer will build a certain amount of houses in that particular area, and they would reserve maybe a third of the housing for families who are based on an income sliding scale, so that it's in the same neighborhood. The other family members don't know, oh, this family was selected for a government program, because what will happen is the contractor will get like a tax write-off. It will benefit them, and the family will get a home, and they will be in a home where there's a education, a home where their kids can have, public parks where they can go to that are safe, and the families can afford uh, to be at home with the kids when they are needing them for homework. So, and we had some of that for a while, but I don't know to what extent we're doing that, because that took a lot of approval for certain neighborhoods to be able to prove that. Because some of them feel like, if you build it, then all these poor people are going to come and bring their values with them. So, but to me, that's a suggestion. You got a winner. I'm a builder. I'm going to get tax write-off. I'm going to get benefits from it. I'm going to get a resident in my home. I'm going to get the community to be filled. I feel that. I build another one. The families are able to provide a roof over their heads for couples or individuals, and they're able to subsidize their living at the same time. I personally don't think just throwing money at a solution is the answer. You got to have a sense of direction.
Right.